Hey folks, welcome back to another Dice Tower preview. I'm Mark, and today we're taking a brief look at a couple games you may already know. Fire Tower and Honey Buzz, and both of these are now available at Target and Walmart. So these might be a couple games that you recognize, and if you don't, I'm going to give you a brief look at each, just so you have an idea about them. You can make a choice about if they look like something of interest to you. But for me, these have been some go-to family games. We play these a lot, and there's some really interesting things here. So first, let's jump into Fire Tower. While manning your fire tower, you notice smoke in the distance and pull out your radio to report a blaze growing somewhere in the forest. You must protect your tower with all the resources at your disposal. Dispatch fire engines to combat the blaze, order airdrops of water, and plan the building of fire breaks. Competing fire departments will complicate your work, using the unrelenting winds to their advantage in an attempt to safeguard their own towers and threaten yours. The chaotic firestorm also stalks the deck and will dramatically swell the flames each time it is drawn. Will you effectively use your forces to outweigh your opponents and survive the inferno? Can you be the last tower standing? Fire Tower is a competitive game where you must fight fire with fire. Most firefighting games have a cooperative aspect, with players working together to beat back the flames, but in Fire Tower, your only objectives are to protect your own tower and spread the blaze towards your opponents. The game plays 2 to 4 players ages 12 and up and takes about 15 to 30 minutes to play. Action cards will allow you to alter the direction of the wind and add varying patterns of fire, water, and defensive barriers to the board. The skill comes in effectively directing the resources in your hand and using sound spatial planning to deploy them. The game incorporates an intuitive play structure that takes minutes to learn and is easy to set up. Each card includes a grid that visually explains the ways it can be used, saving new players from having to constantly refer back to the rulebook. Although the core mechanics are easy to grasp, an ever-shifting environment forces players to switch up their tactics and experiment with varied strategies, making Fire Tower a difficult game to master and each played through a very fresh experience. So, in the end, you will be fighting fire with fire in this fiercely competitive game. So, then that brings us over to Honey Buzz. In Honey Buzz, the bees have discovered economics. The queen believes that if they sell honey to the bears, badgers, and woodland creatures, they will find peace and prosperity. Spring has arrived and it's time to build the hive, find nectar, make honey, and for the first time ever, set up shop. The game plays 1 to 4 players ages 10 and up and takes about 45 to 90 minutes to play. Honey Buzz is a worker bee placement game where players expand a personal beehive by drafting various honeycomb tiles that grant actions that are triggered throughout the game. Each tile represents a different action. Whenever a tile is laid so that it completes a certain pattern, a ring of actions is triggered, in whatever order the player chooses. A tile drafted on turn 1 could be triggered up to 3 times at any point during the game. It all depends on how you place your beeples, yes, beeples, and build your hive. After all, in the honey business, efficiency is queen. Throughout the game, as you continually expand your hive, you'll forage nectar and pollen, make honey, sell different varieties at the bear market, host honey tastings, and attend to the queen at her court. There's only so much nectar to go around, and finding it won't be easy. You will have to scout out the nectar fields and pay attention to other players' searches to try to deduce the location of the nectar they need for themselves. And in the end, when the market closes, be the player with the most money in order to be rewarded with a victory most sweet. Alright folks, just a reminder once again, this has been a Dice Tower paid preview, and everything you've seen here is done and ready to go. The main reason for this video is to promote the fact that you can now pick up these games at Target and Walmart. Some really interesting play around these. Like I said, for me, these have been family favorites. Fire Tower, just the whole out of control fire and how you manage that and how the board expands. And every time you play, it is very different. Very interesting patterns that emerge, fire breaks that you put into play, lots of fun of back and forth. Now, over on Honey Buzz's side though, I really enjoy the fact that you're building out your hive, and however you do that and manage the hive will give you even more actions to perform. Lots of interesting things about how this works out. So many options of what you're doing on your turn and so forth. So these are two games to definitely give a closer look to if they look like something of interest to you. But folks, ultimately, if they do look like something of interest to you, I'm sure they'd appreciate your support. So I think that's it for me, and until next time, we'll see you at the table.